Google's engineers drinking Red Bull and making updates. It's much more about a major overhaul of Google's platform. So prior updates that Google's made have been minor tweaks to their algorithm. This is a complete reworking of their search platform with some really important distinctions or differentiators. So let's talk about those for a minute. So the caffeine update gives Google the ability to be highly flexible, both in the algorithm as well as changes that they make to the user interface. So anybody who follows the search space knows that changes to the user interface were really something that was started by Microsoft's Bing. When they introduced it, it was a different way of presenting information, and Google needed to be able to adjust and test things on the fly. So that was the first piece of that. The second one is really forcing a convergence between things that we would talk about in terms of acquisition and things we would talk about in terms of user experience and conversion. So by that I mean we would oftentimes tweak pages to make them load faster and have better user experience. Those very same things now are getting a hard look from Google and are a significant component now in the algorithm. So it's really a convergence between things we would do for our user and things that we do from an optimization perspective to gain good listings. The next one, and probably the most interesting one, is the inclusion of real-time information. So this is a drastic change for Google, where things like Facebook status updates and tweets and user reviews are now all being dynamically pulled into the search results page, and you'll start to see that showing up more and more. So significant parts of the search results page are going to be dedicated to what are termed real-time updates. And lastly, Google's introduced location-based customization or personalization. So where before only the paid search ads reflected where you were, either based on your mobile presence or your IP address, now Google's starting to make some significant changes to the organic listings based on where that user is entering the internet. So the takeaway here is that while we're sitting here, our organic listings are changing. The entire face of what's been delivering value for our business is changing, and we have to pay attention to that. So because of these changes, we have to look at things like, what are we doing from a location or local targeting perspective? How are we utilizing our social media programs to start influencing additional content in the search results page? So your SEO strategies absolutely deserve another look. So on to rule number 5, my last rule. Multi-channel measurement and optimization. It's going to be a hot topic for the conference today and for this week, and it's something we have to pay a lot of attention to, especially for the multi-channel retailers. The consumer has told us that they're no longer willing to be exclusive to a single channel. They're not just going to shop in your store. They're not just going to shop online. They're not just going to use mobile. They want to use whatever channel and whatever vehicle they prefer to get into your business and to conduct their research and purchases. While it's certainly not easy to measure the impact that one channel has on the other, for example, how does our online marketing impact our in-store traffic and sales, it's something that we have to get our arms around in order to effectively optimize our marketing mix. So the two things that I wanted to instill with you today is that the insight that's needed to effectively measure and optimize across channels is critical, and it's going to mean that we have to make additional investments in things like our tracking tools and the insight surveys, like from 4C Results and others, utilizing that data to understand the interrelationships between channels. And secondly, many of you who use agencies or even have internal teams likely split those by channel. So you may have a mass media agency who does TV, radio, and print, and an interactive agency that does search and display, etc. The problem with that separation is that it really prevents that collaboration and insight that's necessary to close the loop. So we're not suggesting that you go fire all of your agencies and hire one or reorg your internal teams, but instead we need to make it a priority that we bring those teams together and force that collaboration and joint insight. So in closing for today, when faced with what I'm terming these business unusual times, it's really important that we not simply go about planning as we have historically. We need to understand the difference in the consumer and their behaviors and interests and needs and adjust our strategies accordingly. So I highly encourage you to use the conference this week to bring in those insights, meet with the different providers of tools, and really use this as the launching point for the changing strategies for the year ahead. In addition, I'll encourage you to just swing by Rosetta's booth if you want to get any more information. We're at booth 5. Or we put up a small microsite for the conference this week at www.rosetta.com/retail. We have a bunch of different strategies, points of view, articles, and documents available to you for free. So again, thank you very much for the time this morning. Looking forward to a great conference ahead. Thanks. Okay, so next I get to introduce our first keynote speaker. I have the pleasure of introducing Bill Bass, who's the president of Charming Shops Direct. And Bill asked me to specify his responsibilities as beating his employees that don't live up to his expectations, the primary responsibilities of his role. Bill is an experienced executive with significant expertise in e-commerce and direct marketing. In 2006, he co-founded Fair Indigo, which is a multi-channel women's and men's apparel retailer. In addition, he remains as the chairman of the board of Fair Indigo and also serves as a member of the board of directors of Tractor Supply Company. So please help me welcome Bill.